Welcome, everybody, to this exciting edition of Business Horizon Talks that we're delivering with the UK Space Agency and ESPARC. My name is Asia Bulgarini, and I'm an Associate Business Consultant at Grey Consultants. And I'm so pleased to welcome you to this session on networking to open up space opportunities. So this is the agenda for today. I'll go through the house rules first, then I'll give the word to our speakers for their introduction, and then move on to the case study presentation, and finally, we will have the Q&A. The house rules are the following. This session is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it again on YouTube. You can ask questions to the panel by submitting them to the Q&A box that you can access by hovering on the menu bar. And if you need any technical assistance, chat with the tech support by clicking on the chat button. Also, if you would like subtitle, you can enable them by selecting live transcript from the menu bar. Note that you can also change the size. And if you're enjoying what you're seeing and want to share your thoughts, please do so on social media. So we're going to be speaking to a great lineup of panelists, and here's a quick overview of who they are. So we have Anushka, founder of Not, Timo, founder and CEO of Cosmonaut, Daria, Operation Manager at Astro Agency. There you go, Daria. And Sam, co-chair of the Space Energy Initiative. I'm going to bring in Anushka first. Anushka, as the founder of Not, why is networking important for your work?
So it's so lovely to see you all. Thank you for the invitation and welcome to everybody that's joining us. Networking is so important to me because it's just me at Not. I'm a solopreneur slash self-employed solo founder, and I'm considered like a micro startup because it's literally me, and I scale up and ramp up as my projects grow, and I bring people on board. And so I don't have the benefit of an organizational structure that can champion me, the work that I do. So I have to depend on my relationship with my network across the space diaspora, but also across technology and startups and the various sectors that I've had the opportunity to work in. And that's really the key focus. It's to allow for collaboration, but also to let my network know what I'm up to and also what I'm looking to do so that we can all connect the dots together.
Great. I will now move on to ask you a question that has been submitted in advance by your participants during the sign-up process. The question is, do you have any advice for small businesses that don't have the resources to attend lots of conferences and events? Are we missing out if we can only access free-to-attend events?
So it's been such an interesting past 2 years, particularly with this global pandemic. And I, like many people across the space ecosystem, would hop on a plane where budget would allow me and, go to space conferences around the world. I think the wonderful thing about right now is we've got used to online events and we're moving more into hybrid models much more. So even if you could physically get to a location that's near you or a city near you or a town near you, sometimes it's easy to just log in from home and work around your time. Now, I often get asked about what events should I go to, and you have to think about your budget and the time that you have to allocate. And one of the things that I advise you to do is, especially if it's just you, is reach out to event organizers, particularly if you can't afford the ticket fee. If they don't know that you're trying to access the event, you're in a blind spot for them. And I've often negotiated sharing tidbits on social media as a way to bargain and get a ticket previously to an event that was outside of my personal budget. I've also gone to my network and raised sponsorship from past clients and future clients to then write reports and share insights of what I've gathered and learned and networked within the audience of said conference. And one of the great things is look outside of the space sector. There are some incredible events happening across all of the industries and sectors. And if you're new to the space sector and looking for opportunities, don't undersell yourself and the expertise that you might be able to bring into the space sector. So there are some great ways to access events online particularly, and there are some great libraries available online where if you, for instance, go to YouTube and other event resources, a lot of websites and conference organizers have shared talks. So be specific in the time that you have and maybe go for a walk. put your headphones on and listen to the content, and you may learn things in a way that if you were sitting in front of your computer, many of us have got a lot of like brain drain and energy drain from sitting in front of Zoom. So I like to absorb information differently, and for me sometimes it's, even while I'm attending an online event, is putting my headphones on and going for a walk in a local park. So those are some of my ways to access events online.
Yeah, definitely great tips. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's move on now to Timo. Timo, can you tell us a bit about Cosmonauts?
So, I mean, going back to your question to Anushka about the importance of networking. I mean, we built this entire business on the concept of networking. I mean, a lot of people know us about in relation to our conferences, and on the back of that, we've gone and expanded into a lot of areas which always ended up at its core having the element of building a network and being able to leverage that network for you to expand, deliver, and service your customers in a better way. So, we provide investment support, we provide business development support, we provide market research for the enterprise technology sector, with the space sector being at the core of what we do. And excuse me for perhaps like being slightly cynical when it comes to virtual events, being on a virtual event right now. But I found virtual events to be notoriously difficult when it comes to the networking element. Done a lot of them, keep on doing them out of necessity, not out of choice. And I feel that I'm somewhat more reluctant to be accepting that new normal, because I feel that for you to be able to build a quality relationship, to be able to connect with an individual and actually see how you can find ways to do things together, your physical presence is required. And I do understand, having been on either side of the equation, you growing a business, how the heck do I pay like a grand for a ticket? Well, you don't have to. That doesn't mean that you cannot take some of the advantages of that event happening. What I've done in the past is that there's a big event happening, it's too expensive for me. I'll still go there, and I will connect with the people that are going there, but I'll sit in a cafe outside, booking meetings with people that are inside. So, you can leverage those things happening, but, unfortunately, you've got to be present in one way or another. If you allow others to be present, then others will win that business instead of you, because at the end of the day, people buy people, and I think that will continue moving forward, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Okay, thank you, Timo. So how can the existing space sector encourage engagement and participation, and this can be online or in person, from non-space stakeholders?
You're asking me that?
Yeah.
I listen, like I've sort of seen the space sector evolve over the last maybe 3-4 years. When I started this company, the only thing about space in my business was the name of the business itself, and nothing else. We didn't start operating in space from the outset. I didn't know anyone in space. I had no clue how the sector operates whatsoever. We started working in legal and intellectual property innovation, which is a sector that I happened to find myself in over the last 10 years, and was a sector that was easy to enter because I've got experience in a networking. But then we kind of started trying to bully our way in, and it was an expensive exercise, and it was a frustrating exercise as well, because over 2 years we were trying to do things, but no one paid attention to you in this sector unless you are from the sector. And I kind of noticed that, and I compared it with other, I would say, more mature enterprise technology sectors or more mature business sectors. And I'm not discounting space as a sector. I think that it's just in its state of maturity as a business sector is somewhat behind compared to some more conventional sectors. And I think the very reason that it was a sector that was naturally just preserved for the public sector, and the private and the private business world wasn't particularly interested in that. But over the years, I see the sector maturing. I see that there is an elevated need for business development and marketing, something that the sector felt that doesn't need. All money was chunked into research and development, and it was a research and development game and a licensing game, and no one cared about selling their product. So it seemed, and now I see a difference. One of the things that we do when work with companies and when we essentially deliver our events as well is to try to invite the wider business community, the wider investment community, and we're seeing now increased interest by players that are not naturally placed in the sector, and were somewhat reluctant even looking at the sector because they just wouldn't get it. And I think that we are coming to that point of slightly more matured infancy, and I can see that people are more open to adopt and bring in professionals from other sectors, because the sector is now growing, and not only the ones that were there before are required to be part of it. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that change, and I'm also happy to see that outsiders are somewhat more welcome than they used to be.
Thanks. Yeah, we're definitely all looking forward to the change. So let's now move on to Daria, who has some slides, I believe. So Daria, can you please tell us about Astro Agency?
Yep. Hello. Hi, everyone. I hope that everyone can see my slides. So I'm Daria, and I'm in charge of operations at Astro Agency. I am in the UK space sector for around 5 years, and my background comes from the launch sector, where I was doing business development. So I know very well how important networking is for companies. And also, networking is one of the key services that Astro Agency provides to its clients. Sorry, I think nobody can see my slides, but never mind. So networking is key services that we provide to our clients, and this is what we do for companies, basically connect them to the right audience, to the right people, to the right companies. Also, I would like to talk about our Space Bar. This is an initiative launched by Astro Agency at the very beginning of pandemic. This is an online event that we started more than year ago. Yep. And we currently have 52 sessions of experience for the Space Bar. Sorry, Azia, I cannot move. I cannot control my slides, it seems. Oh, yes, I think I can now. Yep. So speaking about Space Bar, and today I would like to share this experience, the experience of our Space Bar sessions. We had 52 online events to date. Top hosts, top speakers. One event could reach to up to 300 attendees. Our participants signed over 12 MOUs during the event, and it all started from a Zoom call for friends just when the lockdown began. So yeah, I do understand how important networking is, and I'm happy to share any insights, key learnings that we gained over this period of pandemic. Yep.
Great. The pre-supply questions from our participants is how can we leverage technology to improve the quantity and quality of our interactions? Will they ever completely replace in-person networking?
So thanks for the question. And I would say that online events and having online events is a great opportunity to bring together truly global audience. And at online events, you meet people that you would have never met in person, maybe. You can go to an event from any point of the world. And like Anushka was saying, just using your headphones and having a walk in the park. This is great, right? But at the same time, I don't see online events replacing offline things completely. And I'll probably be supporting one of Timo's points here, because there are things that they just cannot be replaced. When you are at offline event, there are some minor but very important events that are happening around you. For example, a random chat when you are in the queue, or a coffee conversation once you see someone. Also, these are things like when you see who's at the event, who's speaking with whom, and random introductions, mutual introductions, like when people say, hey, I've seen the guy from this company here, you need to meet them. So this is something that cannot be done at online events, because what is networking essentially? This is discussions, these are conversations, talks. And online, we quite often are not able to do that, because we go to broadcast events, to webinars like this one, where we listen and absorb information. But you need to listen and to speak, to network, right? To meet people. And referring to our Spacebar experience, we have very interesting sessions, very interesting panels that people go to, top speakers, as I mentioned. But real networking, as our founder Daniel says, starts after midnight, when all the panels are over, when lots of people who were there just to listen to an interesting speaker leave, and the group becomes smaller, so people can all talk. From the very beginning, Spacebar was an event, not a broadcast one, but just a Zoom room where everyone is able to unmute, to put their camera on and talk about what bothers them and about what is about space sector news, etc. So we noticed that it only works when the group is smaller, and only in that way you're able to interact, to speak. So I would say that currently, like to summarize everything, I would say that yes, online events are great, and we are using technology already to its maximum. We create different booths online conferences, hybrid events, etc. But I don't think it will ever replace offline conversations, because offline events have much more than just physical presence. And what I would suggest people do if they have no opportunity to attend offline events is something that we do for our clients as well. We basically develop like a strategy for targeted communications. Just going to all the online events will not help. Just going everywhere that has the word networking will not help, because you will not have this effective communications. You need to know your target list of communications, your target audience, who you want to talk to, and then go specifically to the events where you can find those people. So smaller, precise steps are better online, whereas in offline events, you just find a good one and go there, and the rest happens naturally. So yeah, that's it, I think.
Just to echo that, one of the most beautiful things in both life and business is serendipity, but you won't come across it while wearing your pajamas.
Thank you, Daria, for sharing your strategy. I will now introduce Sam, who will present the Space Energy Initiative and its importance of building strong networks to achieve objectives.
Thank you. Great to be part of this. I think networking is such an important part of what we all need to do. So I'm from the Satellite Applications Catapult, and we're a technology and innovation center, and all about driving economic growth through the use of space and satellite data, and connecting and networking is a huge part of that. Insofar as when we set out many years ago, the space sector used to talk to itself. Nowadays, because of the boundary crossing networking that happens across space and other sectors, there's space touching all sorts of different areas. And I think the Space Energy Initiative and space power is a fantastic fantastic example of that. So this was set up about a year ago, and if that moves on one, if someone could advance the slide one, then the concept of space-based solar power is truly transformational. It involves putting extremely large solar arrays in space and beaming the power down to Earth, normally by microwave. Other options are possible, but it's got some incredibly compelling features as we work towards a net zero future, both in terms of the fact that it's continuous baseload energy, and the levelized cost of the electricity is actually predicted to be lower than some of the intermittent technologies like wind and ground solar. So it's got some incredible features. And what government did was to commission a study from an organization called Frazer-Nash, and they did a brilliant job of verifying that both the technical and economic aspects were feasible. So that came to a halt, and that's where the network and the Space Energy Initiative was really kicked in, because following the end of the study, whilst there's real interest and appetite to try and drive this forward, what people were talking about, and it's quite a typical response in the space sector, is, should we try and do a few more sort of tech studies, a few little sort of tech demonstrators to de-risk stuff? Well, yes, that's part of the solution, but really, if you're for virtually everything you're doing, it's about creating new markets, creating new industries, and that needs a lot more than technology. The kind of market risk and execution risk are as or more important than the technology risk. So what we did, myself and Martin Salto, fantastic chap from Frazer-Nash who led the study for BEIS, we sat together and we agreed that actually creating a network, creating this Space Energy Initiative was the thing to do. And importantly, we looked at what we really needed to bring together. And I think the term coalition of the willing is a really important thing to emphasize. This has all been done pro bono. People have been working in their spare time, but actually by convincing people and communicating the benefits that space energy can bring, we've pulled a really great community together. So next slide, please. The next slide shows the areas that we identified as being important. So it's not just technology. Yes, there's a technology working group, look at everything from the program structure through to technology that can be developed, but got finance and funding. So how can we actually attract finance and funding to this? Environmental, what are the through life environmental costs, and to make sure it really does hit net zero? Communications, how can we get the message out, particularly to the energy community, to government, to the finance community, that this is something that's not just feasible, but actually could be transformation in all sorts of different ways. Industry and supply chain, so what UK capability actually exists that could be brought towards this. International is huge for something as large scale as space solar power, from the regulatory perspective, from partnerships to development, and ultimately for the power sharing agreements, and then legal and regulatory. So we've set up these 7 working groups, and we've now got, I'll show you on the next slide, but we've got more than 46 organizations that have joined the Space Energy Initiative, working towards this direction set by the core team. We've now got an advisory board. And in terms of building the network, I think this is important to emphasize how, you start small, you start with the willing, and then it grows. So if we'd on day one tried to go and attract a senior level advisory board, we probably wouldn't have got very far. But once we'd got the traction demonstrated from industry, the traction and interest from energy, we've now got an extremely high level advisory board chaired by Mark Garnier, MP. We've got a couple of SIRs on the advisory board, and tons of energy and space sector expertise that can really make this happen. So if we go to the next slide, it just shows the members of the Space Energy Initiative to date. So we've got 46 members across space and energy, and really this has been absolutely key. It's creating a new industry. So space, there's no natural prime for this. We needed to bring together the space industry, the energy industry, and then even within government, the energy bits of BEIS, the space bits of BEIS, to actually talk to each other. And the wonderful news is that everyone's now together working with common purpose to try and make this a reality, which is absolutely wonderful. So that's a bit of background on how we've built the network and where it's got to. Asia also asked me to cover a couple of different points. So how to maintain and grow the network. So I think that's about showing purpose, showing the benefits to members. So each working group has a plan which we all execute, and then I think having the advisory board that's really setting direction, setting drumbeat, and then what we're really driving towards is funding. So there's real benefit in people coming together to be part of this to actually grow something for UK PLC. In terms of factors that were sort of beneficial or hindered collaboration, interestingly, I think COVID actually helped. If we'd tried to do this and actually tried to do it physically, I think we'd have got a lot less uptake to the initial meetings than we have. It's so easy for people to engage. This has been possible because networking has been done already, and Martin and myself and others in the space energy initiative have networks already. So we've built up. The important thing about networking is you build up social capital, goodwill. So when you want to act, and people trust you, so when you actually go to want them to come and work with you, you've got that in the bank. And so the fact that there were networks already existed meant we could probably do quite a bit virtually. If we didn't know anyone, that would probably be much harder. So actually, I think COVID helped this scale quite well. Finance has been a problem. Everyone's been working pro bono, but it's amazing the level of goodwill that has been achieved. And we're very hopeful of working now with government and private finance to really bring the funding that's needed together to make the reality. In terms of advice and tips for people looking to expand their network, well, I mean, for me, networking is about a couple of things. It's about you might network for advice, for information, and actually for access. So it depends what you're trying to achieve. And as I say, it's all about building up that trust, that social capital. And I think Timo's point that probably does help if you can meet face to face at some point. It's quite hard to build up that social capital if you've never met people before. I don't think it's impossible, actually. I do think you can achieve quite a lot online. And yeah, serendipitous pajama-based activity does come about every now and again, Timo, although I'd very, very much like to meet up face to face. I love Darius' spacebar concept. I think that would be even better face to face. So I think if you want to build your network, then you've got to improve your approachability, make sure you're approachable, and then how you increase your exposure and visibility. Those are all things to think about. So the Space Energy Initiative is in a great place. For anyone who wants to know more, happy to talk offline. But it's a fantastic example of where networking has and building that coalition of the willing has hopefully got something from a point where it was so big that and so transformational that people thought it was too hard to even look at, to now the point where people are believing we've got traction and funding is hopefully not too far away. Thank you.
How much do you need?
The full program for the first of a kind 2 gigawatt system in space, equivalent to about the nuclear power station, is about 16 billion. But it's a 12-year program. What we're looking for initially for the first, that's a 5-phase program. For phase 0 and phase 1, 300 million over 5 years. And again, this is an important message for the space sector that's listening to this. These sort of numbers make people in the space sector frightened or scared to ask, because it's outside of the scope of traditional space sector budgets. I mean, perhaps not in the US, but it certainly is here. We've got to stop looking at space as traditional space sector budgets. This will be an energy funded project predominantly by the time it comes off, and hopefully be predominantly funded by through bond-backed finance and the capital markets. What we need is sort of space, energy, government, private finance to come together. And this is a fantastic example of sort of networking and how people with different backgrounds can come together to make it happen. But that group of people can make this financeable.
Is that an exclusive opportunity to the government?
Sorry?
Is that an exclusive opportunity to the government?
Exclusive?
Do you have to get money from the government?
I think it would be very hard to attract private finance without a very strong signal from the government. This is something they support. And there are different ways in terms of how government could bring private finances on the journey. Everything from substantial grant funding right through to taking an equity stake in the business. Those are different strengths of signal, and actually creating the demand environment. So if government sat down today and said, well, in 12 years' time when the energy is available, we'll definitely buy it. Wow, that sort of thing does get the world moving. So there's all sorts of different ways, and government have been fantastically supportive in this, what has been a coalition of the willing. It's some incredible conversations, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think probably one of my tips to everyone would be, humans are almost innately programmed. If you ask someone for help, it's very, very rare that they will say no. If they do, you've lost nothing. But 9 times out of 10, people want to help. It's sort of like it's a hardwired trigger in people's brains.
Great. Thank you, Timo. I really hope you'll be able to stay with us for any questions that might be relevant to you in the Q&A. So now for all attendees, you should be able to see the Q&A button on the menu bar, where you can submit question. You can vote the ones that you want the panelists to ask. And I can see that some of the questions have already been submitted. So I'm going to just fill these questions from the participants. And in the meantime, panelists, if you would like to answer any particular question, please raise your virtual hand or real hand. I'll try. Okay, so how do we make sure we are collaborating across all regions of the UK and also internationally? Are there any specific opportunities for these? So Daria, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Asia. So, yeah, this is a very good question, because something that is already happening in the UK could help answer this. I'm talking specifically about regional clusters development. This is an initiative that was originally run by UKSA, and I believe that 12 clusters were funded. So basically, each cluster has a strategy and a manager. And one of the points of this strategy is to collaborate with other clusters. And I think this initiative is critical to make sure that different clusters in the UK engage with each other and different regions stay connected. It is very important for people who are involved in these clusters to speak, to communicate, to share knowledge, and talk about capabilities they have, because there are lots of things that are already there. We just don't know about all of them. And again, supporting Sam's point about asking for help. Every cluster is able to say, I have a gap here. Who is able to help me? And other clusters should be able to support them. So this initiative, I believe, will bring this connection more and will connect people and companies and regions more. And all together, we would be able to engage globally. Because if we target to, if we want to resolve global problems, we have to first start connect locally, and we also have to engage beyond our borders, right? So to resolve global problems, we must act globally. This is something that I think, yes, will definitely benefit the UK as a whole. That's basically it. Everything that I wanted to say. Answering this question, happy to answer additional ones if anyone has.
Thanks. So
just to build on Dara's response, I think the UK has been fantastic in terms of setting frameworks and fabric for for kind of national engagement for space, and space touches all sorts of sectors, and lots of regions have different strengths, different capabilities, and space really does touch all of us in different ways. So the opportunities for national engagement are really strong. And then from the international angle, well, space is by definition global, and we've got a fantastic opportunity now with the UK reimagining its global position in terms of how we go about setting those partnerships and really building the space sector out to deliver all the benefits it can to Earth.
Yeah, it's great to see that these questions are all very important to you. So the next one is, are there new technologies coming that we need to be ready for? Should we be migrating to the metaverse? Timo, would you like to take this one?
I think that whoever thinks that the metaverse is something new, it's living by the headlines that the not so recent now announcement of Facebook has come to be. I mean, we've lived through so many cycles of VR, AR phrase over the years, you know, going as back as the 1970s. Looking at how VR will take over and so on, and there is a good use for everything, right? I think that the verse can present a fantastic environment for training of professionals. It can present an environment that can be somewhat more accessible by many to learn how to do things, whether that's going to be in medicine or engineering. And I think that it has already established itself as a massive factor within the entertainment industry to the gaming industry. But you know, if people feel that this is going to be the new normal and somewhat kind of completely find ourselves in living in a metrics world, you know, I wish we'll be able to reach this kind of graphics, but I don't think that we're anywhere near that. So you know, I'm like somewhat skeptical as to how much it will take over our regular ordinary lives. I think that you know, it's an exciting industry, and it has its pockets of success, but I'm skeptical as to what we'll achieve for kind of the regular folks out there and people like ourselves, which you know, we can do things more efficiently by following existing models and existing technology. Sometimes, you know, you don't need to over-engineer things if they already work.
Thanks.
I'd love to follow up on that, if that's okay, Daria. So I should have said at the beginning, this is a networking event, and I should tell you what Nought is. It's my innovation and space technology consultancy. So really looking at deep technology and its application specifically for the space sector is what we focus on. Previously, I also co-founded in 2019 the London Space Network with two friends that brought the community together in a pub every month for a very informal like meetup, and it was really to strengthen the UK space community, particularly those of us who couldn't always afford those trips abroad and also to conferences. So big shout out to Harriet and Manny, my co-founders there. I think technology is really interesting, and Timo, I agree with you that meta isn't here yet, metaverse, but it is the phrase that encapsulates, you know, augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality. And if we think about the last few years and how much we as professionals have used platforms such as Zoom, there is a lot of data being accrued about how we may present ourselves in a future metaverse context, particularly for business. So I think there's a lot of like data being mined at the moment by us or from us. And that's obviously true for platforms such as Twitter and Facebook and Google and other such platforms. But one of the areas I'm particularly interested in is robotics. I think we have to look at resources on the surface of the moon as we look at the joint collaborative international efforts to go back to the moon and onto Mars. There was the signing of the Artemis Accords at the IAC, the International Astronautical Congress in, I think it was 2018, pre-pandemic in Washington, DC. And obviously robotics is going to be powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning and iterating on big data. And actually that big data is really how we're now moving into a knowledge economy. So all of you that are here at this event and you have analytical skills, you can look at data and how to transform it and find those business applications. We can't undersell the fact that looking at data with an analytical mind is going to be a key driver for the space ecosystem, but across every sector you can imagine. And the last one is mining technology. I think that we do some incredible terrestrial mining on the surface of our planet in remote parts of Australia, in the UK, and there are some incredible lessons that we can rapidly transfer to towards looking at mining on the surface of the moon and looking for like key resources. And with that, I can see that Daria has her hand up, so I'll hand to her.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just build up on what you were saying. It totally supports your point, and I expressed a lot of what I was thinking. But I'll add one more thing about metaverse here. So I agree with both Timo and Anushka that it's not super key just now, and I think this technology is going through early adoption stage at the moment. But what is more real and what is equally important as our personality at the office, for example, is our social profiles and our online profiles. So basically, when you are working offline with people and you're meeting them, they think something of you. You make some kind of impression, right? And online, just Google your name and see what types of information are online about you. We already are in this metaverse. We already have our online profiles, and we have to be very careful and about what we post, what we say, how we look. See what your profile is and identify what are the gaps that are there. What is online and not showing that you want to be thought of. So yeah, just wanted to add this point that this already is here, and we are discussing online networking. So our online profiles are equally important to our offline communication nowadays.
Thanks.
Problem with that though is that anyone can be anyone online, and that's what we'll continue battling.
Also, we've had a lot of messaging recently from both the civil and military domain customers about forming Team UK for space. Do the panelists see the UK space industry currently connected or still very siloed? How do we change that? So, Sam, would you like to take this one?
I'll have a crack at that one. Yeah, so actually, I think the UK space sector is extremely well connected, arguably too so. It's coordinated, and it's really positive. We've got everything from the National Space Partnership now, which is bringing government, industry, and academia together. You've got UK Space, the Trade Association, loads and loads of networking events and bodies and organizations down at the sort of subsector level of the space sector too, which is brilliant. I think if there is a challenge, I think it's probably that it is too siloed, certainly for the space sector as a whole, and then arguably within the sector as well. Lots of the solutions that space offers require working between the silos of comms, nav, EO, etc. And then the important bit, and actually it's a really quite nice message for networking generally, is it's okay having closed networks, as in networks that sort of sit within, in this case, the space industry. But for the space industry to succeed, it's those boundary crossing networks, boundary crossing connections that will really help. So connections into transport or energy or health or robotics or manufacturing. That's what's going to really help the sector. So I think a lot more connection is needed, but not necessarily within the space sector.
Can I just add one last thing? Last year saw the launch of the National Space Strategy, and it was the first time we've ever seen a cross-departmental strategy put together. And so the Ministry of Defence was a part of that, as was BEIS. So that's business and industrial and energy, I could be wrong. But it was quite critical to get the defence sector as well as like business and science together to really have this like collaborative strategic vision. And if I'm not like wrong, this is the first time we've ever had such a strategy ever in the UK's history. So it just shows that if we're strategically aiming in that way, that's kind of across departments, then I think that work is starting to happen. So hopefully we'll start to see that momentum building.
It's really energizing, Nush. I think it's so refreshing to see people really working together now to try and implement it. It's the most energy I've felt in the space sector in my time in it.
I mean, it's the only way forward, right? I mean, you have to make the sector commercially exciting, and you have to be able to make it exciting for anyone that may not particularly be excited about space. And I think that's one of the key elements of building a successful business vertical, is that you cannot rely only on the people that dream about space and love space and are passionate about space to be able to grow an industry. You got to bring the people in that are passionate about business, and the fact is that there are more people out there passionate about business than they're passionate about space. And one of the things that we always try to do with our gatherings is to bring as many outsiders as possible, as many investment funds that have never invested in space, and elaborate that, guys, there is a real business opportunity here. You know, this is not far-fetched, this is not sci-fi. We're talking about business here. And I think that, just to kind of support Sam in his statement, I do see the sector becoming less arrogant, because I think that's the word that, you know, we all want to avoid, but it's been there, and that's the reason why you know, it's been somewhat difficult for outsiders to be allowed in, because everyone felt that they're doing something more important than anyone else in this world. But the fact is that you have to bring the world in to be able to elevate your mission, and that's the only way that we can move forward.
Great perspective shift. So next, is there a skills shortage in the space sector? And how do we encourage a greater quality and diversity of people to enter the sector? And a related question from William on advice for young talent looking to get into the sector. Nushka, thank you.
Yeah, what a great question. And something I'm really passionate about is speaking to people and using my platform to encourage people who haven't worked in the space sector to think about their career, or if they're mid-career thinking about transitioning into the space sector. I had something like 15 years work experience across other sectors before I formalized what I had been doing in the space sector, because one thing I learned going to events and networking and knowing that was something I was driving like strategically for naught was not going to service me unless I created the identity of naught. And so one of the best things you can do is, well, I guess going to the question, like, there's a skill shortage. Yes, there is. The past 2 years have been life-changing. Imagine those recent graduates that have not been able to get out into the real world and access those graduate training schemes, the apprenticeships, the work experience, the internships, and the mid-career professionals who've now been reevaluating what they want to do in the future, aligning their values and their passions with what they really want to drive impact based outcomes in the real world. And I say that because, you know, we do have this climate challenge at the moment. We need to tackle the things that matter. There's no point in having another laundry app that's going to pick up your laundry. What is that really going to do to service your wider community and your and society, and also help our planet? So I would say that if you're a recent graduate, if you're a mid-career professional, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business-minded person, like Timo said, there are opportunities in the space sector. We do need engineers. The tech sector needs engineers. We need STEM graduates. We need people who've looking at philosophy and ethics and the impact of space technology and space exploration. We need policy people to help us with driving that legislative policy that's going to drive things like the National Space Strategy forward. We need law graduates that are going to be looking at space law as we now look at this challenge of space debris and successfully deorbiting some of the space junk as part of our ongoing way to ensure that we have a sustainable environment around our planet. And then, of course, like touching again on what Timo said, designing new business models where there is now this incredible opportunity. And if space is something you've been passionate about as a kid and you are looking at your day job and you're bored, there are incredible space startups here in the UK. There are incredible internships on the Spin website that you can access and dip your toe in and investigate and think about whether it's something you can build a future in. And if you don't see yourself in the room, challenge the event organizers about why there is not someone in the room that should be in the room. We have to champion each other to make sure that we're building access and opening doors for people as we walk through them and keeping them open so people can still keep coming behind us and actually fill the room with the diversity we need. And that's in thought leadership, that's in solving problems, it's in connecting people, it's selling the story, selling the business, and also sharing and communicating everything that we can achieve together in the space sector.
And just to contribute to that, one of the most beautiful things about humans is that we've got the ability to learn and to adapt. And the fact is that all those businesses need accountants, they need project managers, they need people, they need marketeers, they need lawyers. You know, the business of space is not about rocket science, it's about business. So similar to all other businesses, those professionals are required. And I think that as other sectors have done, there are a lot of transferable skills that you can bring in from your technology background, from any background within professional services that you may have into the sector. Don't shy away of trying. And then to the business leaders within the sector, don't be stubborn looking only for people that have got space experience. You don't have to do that. In fact, don't do it. Maybe you bring more fresh ideas by bringing people that have made it successfully in other sectors related to technology, for instance.
Daria, if you want to add, please, a quick answer so that we can fit to more questions.
Yeah, I'll be very quick. I'll just illustrate what Anushka and Timo were saying was an example. Astra Agency is a startup. We are just over 2 years. And during this period, we've grown to around 25 staff. And half of our team, hello team, found us themselves. We are in a constant process of hiring people. And people are just reaching out to us because they share our values, our principles, our viewpoints. They look at us as a company and think, this is the company I would like to work with, and just reach out to us. So I'm very proud to say that our team members found us themselves. So my advice to all the people who are asking about career, who are asking about talent, skills, and etc., reach out to companies that you feel close to in terms of values, in terms of viewpoints, and just reach out and ask if there is anything for you there. And I'm sure you'll get some answer.
Okay, Daria, if I can ask you one more question. And so Charlotte wants to know, regarding the space strategy, where is the plan? How are defense, the primes, and startup going to work together?
What's happening? So, I mean, as hopefully many of you know, policy responsibility for space has gone to BEIS, which is brilliant because it really gives space a cross-government, cross-sector remit, which is fantastic. And now the Space Agency has a fantastic role now as a delivery agency. What's happening in terms of the rollout of the strategy and implementing it is that an implementation plan is being developed, and implementation working groups to address the key areas of the strategy are being pulled together initially pulling together the relevant government departments, and then it will roll out from there. But I've been extremely energized and refreshed to see the way it's having an impact across conversations across the sector. So in industries talking about how it can align to the 10-point plan, and wherever you go, it's having a real positive focused effect. I think the other thing that's really quite exciting is UK Space Agency have now got this North Star metric of total leveraged investment into the space sector, which for a sector that's been historically quite grant funded is really going to transform the way people look at things. I think it's going to have an incredibly positive effect on everything. So, yeah, I think government deserves a little round of applause. I think some of the things that have been done are great, and now government, industry, academia are all working together. I think we can make a real difference here. Space is going to have such an impact on everything we do. It's only going to grow and grow over the next few decades. And I mean, everyone on this call is hopefully up for the journey. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting one.
Great. Last one, which sectors of society and industry do you expect to play a larger role in the development of space over the coming decade? Timo, please, if you'd like.
All of them.
Agreed.
Perfect. Also, I want to say that our panelists have answered a lot of questions in the Q&A, so thank you for that. It's been amazing to get your thoughts and tips, so thank you all so much. So yeah, this brings us to the end of the module. Any questions that did go unanswered, we'll do our best to get back to you attendees in writing with an answer. And so please give some feedback and join the quick poll that I'm gonna launch now. And it's live, so please. And yeah, you can see the poll on the, yeah, you're already answering, so that's great. There are 4 more sessions, and the next one is on leveraging UK space infrastructure and facilities. So sign up today, the link is on the banner here, but we are gonna release it as well on the channels. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today, and we really can't wait to see you at the next session.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. Make sure you connect with us all on LinkedIn and social media. Get your networking on. I'm sure everyone will be happy to hear from you.
And get out there.
Yeah.